All right, lightning round. This question is from James. How do you think COVID-19 will change the landscape for consumer engagement into the future?
Well, I think initially, people are going to be, as you can imagine, very cautious about what they're doing. Some people, will, maybe not everybody, but I think, it wakes you up when when you have a global pandemic and people are a little bit, cautious about, safety and those kinds of things. So I think initially, you have to put in, signals of safety and trust and letting people as they slowly come in, back into whatever our new normal is going to be, a sense of feeling, comfortable and taken care of, and that sort of sense of care. Again, like in your home, when we first let our first guests in, I'm sure it's going to be overly clean, but you should have a clean home anyway. um, but I would say like that's going to be like a slow kind of coming back into that. But I also think again, you have to build resiliency in the plan. I think if you are just one dimensional and you're not future proofing like a be prepared strategy, then I think you've also you're leaving yourself exposed. So I think in the business case and in the physical case, having those plans in place, having additional ways to, to make revenue and sort of cut your way through an event. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a COVID level. It doesn't have to be a global pandemic. It could be, for example, working with, Casa Bacardi down in Puerto Rico. It could be a hurricane that hits and you're down and you need to sort of, think about those kind of situations that are not necessarily going to affect everybody in the world, but may affect you very regionally or locally. So you should always have, be thinking about the larger plan. And I think I think people will come out of this remembering that, and maybe in 30 years we'll forget about it. But I think over the next decade, it's going to be hard not to be top of mind as you're future planning and future proofing the projects. So that would be what I would say around that question around COVID and post COVID.
Awesome. This one's interesting. This is from Shireen. Old is often associated with authentic, when often it's actually dated. Right?
Yeah.
We preserve authenticity while reviving an experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that hi, Shireen. Shireen. I think that's a good question. I mean, being authentic, I don't necessarily affiliate that with old, and maybe that's just different people the way that they think about it. I think being authentic is being true to who you are as a brand. Like I'll take, for example, Jameson. Jameson, if you look at their motto, Sinametu, without fear, that's a core value and it's a universal value that is not subject to time. It's a universal idea of being bold and kind of moving into a whiskey future that you're not going to be afraid, especially in a category like Irish where you're needing, like you're in a heavy growth market. You were at one point the world's leading whiskey market, and through a wide range of issue, challenges globally, kind of fell back, and now you're trying to find your step again. So I think that when you look at the word authenticity, it's sometimes loaded, and it is sometimes it can be a very dangerous word. But I would sort of reframe it as saying, almost that statement of what is evergreen and what is always true about your brand and your brand purpose. And I think that those core ideas of what you represent and what matter to you can be reinterpreted in a modern way that don't have to be old. I would say, for example, looking at today's brands that are aggressive and moving forward, like the ones that we're working on together, Shireen, it's about momentum. It's about not letting your past hold you back. It informs you, but it doesn't hold you back. In fact, it gives you greater step in where you're moving forward with being confident that you can know that the history of the brand they would have been entrepreneurial just like you. And the reason that they were pioneers was because they didn't do status quo. So it gives you freedom to move forward without feeling restricted by sort of the old cliches and what is old. So I think that that's kind of way I would frame up authenticity, and is to be true to who you are, but don't let it hold you back.
Awesome. I'm going to try to do like two more questions, very quick questions. This is a combination of a question from Pierre and Charlie.
Okay.
Virtual experiences are a hot topic right now. What do you think is the most important thing or best practices when it comes to virtual tours, virtual experiences?
It really, I mean, for me, a lot of it has to do with making sure that you can build those same kind of human connections with your audiences that you're doing. Again, the more personal you can try to get it, the better. Like for me, there's some ones that I think work better than others, and again, you have to look at what scale you want to do these at. There are, for example, there are, big experiences out there that have lots of, hundreds or thousands of invitees and all that. But those are very mass. I mean, I think one of the things you can really play to is a little bit more niche. Like one of my favorite things is, working with, I think some of the people who are doing it the best are these really local places. Like we've got down in downtown LA, this place called Redbird, fantastic chef, great bartender, Toby. Everything is custom. So when I go and buy something, like say I'm going to do like a Sunday brunch for Mother's Day, and I'm able to then bring all of those, I go and pick everything up and I got everything at the house. And then, all of a sudden I'm on the phone or I'm in a virtual session with Toby, who's this incredible bartender, and I've got everything there and he's really working with me almost in a one-way situation. Now, there may be several different, and I know because there's probably 50 people on the call, but it felt very personal. It felt like we were really, and anybody who wants to get in on that because of the price, you're spending some money to have that kind of one way. And then getting on the call and working with like Neil Fraser, who's a top chef in Los Angeles. And he's like, hey, here's some techniques about what you've got in your bag, and let's go through this together. That feels great because I do feel like I've made, even though I'm virtual, I do feel like I'm making a personal connection to that particular restaurant or that brand that they represent. And they're really great. They do great events, but it has that sort of very, I feel like I'm not just another person. I think Metallica was trying to do this the other day with their all hands experience by letting people be in the background and trying to feel people like they're in the session with them, right? I think again, it's very hard at mass, but I think it's better when you can try to do it in a more personal and smaller setting. And I think you can also charge more for that. If you're just getting practical, you don't have to try to get as many people if you do something that's really more intimate and more personal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've got one more question, and I actually have to jump in about a minute. So this will be short, but it's cool. Potential client, maybe. This is from Nick Kelly. When building a brand home, how long is the actual process from start to end to sell on the concept across your major clients?
Building a brand home, it does range depending if it's greenfield or going to an existing site, but it can be anywhere from 2 years, 18 months to 2 years to 3 years, depending on scale and how much you're having to get through in terms of red tape. There can be shorter timeframes if you're going into an existing space in a smaller setting, but it is definitely a longer effort to get a brand home up and running because of the codes and so forth. But that's a rough time frame.
Oh, awesome. I'm going to jam in one more here.
Okay.
This is from Jim. Any compelling sales growth data when companies establish a brand home in a physical location? Again, this seems like somebody who might be thinking about a brand home. What factors are most influential?
Well, again, what you find is that you see the brand homes having that halo effect of post return, so you can see additional revenue sales in different markets, especially for example if a lot of people are coming in from Spain, in an international tourism. If you do a good retail experience, you're going to see that lift in the local market. You can measure it, and it could be anywhere from 25, 30%, maybe even 40% lift. And again, you have to look at all of those factors, but again, it's that lifetime loyalty piece too that you're looking at in terms of growing over time. And you can go back to those markets and see how people are engaged. I think also through like a CRM program that's tied into your emissions and a relationship management, you can also start to track those people and put a value against each of them and the conversion and their lifetime loyalty. So I think there's a couple of different ways you can look at the brand effect in the home and immediate. And then again, as I mentioned before, some of these brand homes are maybe the third or fourth largest market for some of these, what you think would be very global brands. This is where, you get 250, 300,000 visitors coming in and spending $120 a head and spend. It's a bigger market than some of the places that they're trying to earn some audiences. If they put more money into that, actually, because they're growing it. So anyway.
Now, a lot of brands come to us with these questions too, right? Which is, how do we measure brand uplift? How do you measure increased lifetime value? So,
Yeah.
Christian, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Our lightning round.
See you again.
Talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon. Okay, thanks. Bye.